you are this phenomenal, storyteller through song. And I mean, honey, your voice could fill a room by the time you were 8 years old with no microphone. This big old voice of yours, and songwriter and encourager and podcaster and radio host, all the things you do. And yet it seems this big chunk of time in your world has been about motherhood didn't begin the way you thought it was going to begin.
Nope.
Yeah. You want to talk to me about that?
Sure. Yeah, not at all. And it was really dark and gray for a long time. And the thing that's really important to me to talk about here that people understand, like, first of all, everybody's story is different, obviously. Mm-hmm. But for me, I had been, what we do, like as women, we find a doctor that we're comfortable with. I've been going to the same doctor for years. And at some point, our insurance changed, and that doctor didn't carry my insurance anymore. So I had to move doctors completely by chance. And I went into the new doctor for the first time, and she said, "Why have you never gotten pregnant?" And I was like, "Well, you're the gynecologist. You tell me. I don't know." And she's like, "I just want to run this test." And I was probably 37 or 8 at the time. And she's like, "Let's run this test. Let's check it out." And so she did. I don't know what she did. It was testing my egg count. And then I went off on the road, and I was sitting, I'll never forget, I was sitting at the airport. We had just done a show in San Antonio, and we were on the layover coming back, and I was sitting at a table with a bunch of dudes, my band, and I get a call, and I answered it. And literally the woman on the other end of the phone said, "Hi, you have the egg count of a 54-year-old. This is what was said to me." And I was like, "Guys, I have to take this." Like, what? I was over their beers. I'm like, I'm going to walk away. And so anyway, fast forward, and my husband was out of town at the time. And so then I went in the doctor after that, and she was like, "It's probably not going to happen for you." And 2 things came out of that were, one in particular that sort of bothers me if I look back. But I sat with that alone. That's not information I wanted to give my husband when he was on the road. So I waited till he came back, and I had weeks just kind of carrying that alone.
Oh,
I didn't
my gosh.
And
you didn't tell anybody?
I didn't tell anybody.
For weeks?
For weeks. I cried. I told God for a lot. I cried on the kitchen, bathroom, floor, any floor, a lot. But the other thing, when I went back to the doctor, she said, "Okay, so here's the fertility clinic down the road. Obviously, you're just going to do that." And in hindsight, and I did. I just zombied and did that. And in hindsight, I hate that it wasn't said to me, "Here are all your options." Right. It was just like, "You'll try fertility, you'll try this." And then adoption was sort of pitched as a last resort. And that is such a bummer, especially now. Spoiler alert, this story ends in, I have a beautiful daughter who I adopted. It was a train wreck leading up to it, and really tricky and emotional, but I ended up with her. And so it came to me the other day, just a couple of weeks ago, actually. And I was like, why can't the first option be adoption? And I love first option adoption. There's my nonprofit.
First option adoption. And a song.
So,
but I want to dial it back for just a minute, because there are so many women listening and watching this today who've been through tough journeys to have a baby. Tell me what you longed for. Had you always had the longing for one child, several children? What was the longing in your heart?
Certainly for several, because I grew up, I'm one of 2. I have an older sister. My husband is one of 4. And I've always sort of taken in strays with dogs, friends, whatever. So I love having a lot of people around me, and I love the chaos, sort of thrive in it. But I got to a place, I really love myself. I can say that now because I did not think that for a long time. Even though that'd be shocking, I think, for friends and family to hear. But I spent a lot of time not only doing things that I, in hindsight, would regret, and had really, certainly being a songwriter, being in both LA and Nashville, led to just a lot of darkness. And
I don't find that shocking at all. Even if you're not on the road and you're not trying to become, a singer, success, whatever, I think we as women just go through these periods of, and it's awful, figuring out how to love ourselves, figuring out how to like the woman looking at us in the mirror.
Yeah.
And how to lean into her and how to love her with all her messiness and with all the things that we might consider in this world aren't right, but righting them as we love ourselves. So I think it's amazing it wasn't even bigger for you because you were young on the road.
Yeah. But I think too, you'll get this. Like we're told, I know everything that you've done. So I know you've heard this, like, oh gosh, you're Superwoman. How do you do it all? And we used to carry that as such a badge of honor. Mm-hmm. And I say shame. Like, yeah, no, I don't want to be made to think I can do it all. It does take a village and so much around. And so we carry that where for so many years, I had people like, oh my gosh, how do you do it all? I'm like, I just do. And then you go home and you cry or you drink a lot
and you're so exhausted, you can't. Yeah. And you're like, how can I keep running?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't think that's a badge of honor. And yeah, I just carried a lot of darkness alone for a long time. And I also went through some other stuff which may or may not come up today, but so many things that I realized once I started speaking. I don't even mean speaking out publicly. I mean like saying to a friend one night, hey, this happened to me. One of my best friends in the world. I went through one of the worst things in my life. And I said it finally one night to a friend and she goes, that happened to me too. And I'm like, we've been best friends for 15 years. Why did I not know that? And it just feels like the more we talk, whether it's fertility, whatever the issue is, I think the more we say the thing, the less the thing can be a thing. Like the more we speak out about it, I don't mean even in a heavy way, like, hey, this happened to me. Almost like this happened to me. And someone just goes, me too. It's like, cool, move on now. You know what I mean?
Well, I always say, you've heard me say it, when we share our pain, it lessens its power.
Yes, I love that.
We carry each other's pain when we share it.
Yeah.
So might be inappropriate of me to ask, will you share the thing?
Sure. I mean, I have lots of things, but the one thing...
that thing, the 15-year friendship thing?
Yeah. I mean, without going into detail, essentially, I went away on my own dime, by the way. I had somebody that I'd worked with. I'm a spokesperson in the trucking world.
I know, and I can't wait to explore that. And so how weird. In the world did that happen?
So weird. My friend, and I had somebody that I'd worked with had passed away, and I wanted to fly out and support. So I, as a somewhat struggling artist, flew out on my own dime to go to this funeral. And a couple of people in the industry had gotten there a night early and went out. And my last memory is at dinner. And I had a terrible experience that night with a man that I thought that I trusted in the corporate sphere. And by the way, I have healed from this after years of carrying it alone and also not telling anybody. The minute I said something about it, I just felt everything shift.
Yeah.
And but what happened after that, having that
well, first, I'm so sorry.
Thank you.
So sorry.
Thank you. Yeah, you know what? This might sound really weird. I don't mind it now. Because I'm like, back to that, she's Superwoman. I'm like, I'm glad it was me and not one of my other weaker friends. Not really. But I learned so much from it. It shifted how I do everything. Because I was, social butterfly to a fault, putting everything in every scenario first before me, before my family, before my husband, before my daughter. And it forced me to wake up, quite literally, Theresa, on the plane home from that. I had to go through that experience that night, and then the next morning show up to a funeral where all these people were gathering in a celebration of life and sit there quietly by myself in the back of the church, like not really knowing what had happened to me. But I got on the plane to fly home later that day, and a friend had sent me a wonderful artist in town, Emily West. She needs to be on your show. She's amazing. Anyway, she had sent me weeks prior this podcast out of the blue. She's like, just check this out. And it was this shaman. And I was like, that's a weird thing to have sent to me out of the blue. Not it. And I hadn't listened to it. I happened to, when I got on the plane, put it on. And Theresa, I literally figuratively, spiritually, all the things, woke up on that plane ride and just was like, oh my gosh, nothing will ever be the same again. I feel like I know how the world works. I had what I call my spiritual awakening, and I was like, nothing will ever be the same. And so that incident triggered that for me oddly in a good way. That sounds very bizarre to say.
No, I get it. I get it. No, I know. I think from our worst traumas, somehow our souls crack open.
Yeah.
I do. And so you were cracked open in a horrible way, but you took it and wove it into something beautiful.
I did. And it was all happening at the same time. So that happened. I had also recently found out I couldn't have children. My brother-in-law passed away out of the blue, who was my husband's best friend and lifeline. Then a little later after that, we had 2 adoptions fall through, which that is a whole deal. Like, so much happened in the course of this dark period. And in addition to that, that's when we were going through the fertility stuff. And my husband and I, the grayest time in our marriage was when we had this information. I was terrified to tell him that, because any woman listening who is told they can't have children, not only is that a blow to be told I can't do what I'm one of the things that we're supposed to be
able to do.
Yeah. Now you're telling me I can't. And then to say to your husband, who we'd already been together a lot of years, and I know he so badly wanted children, we wanted to see what kind of weird thing we could come up with, because we're both really bizarre. So
I love that.
To have to say to him, I can't give you that, sucked. And I was like, for weeks, how am I going to tell him? How am I going to tell him? How am I going to tell him? And I'll never forget, we were sitting in the car outside of our accountant's office. We had just done our taxes. Oh gosh, life is so fun. And and then we got back in the car, and I told him they're sitting in the parking lot, and he, bless him, immediately went, well, whatever we're going to do, we're going to do it together. I was like, if you want to find another woman, if you want to put your sperm with somebody else. So stupid. He was like, I love you, and whatever we're going to do, we're going to do it together. And it was, again, another like, I just needed to say the thing. Like, we carry these things and we make up the stories of what the person's going to say. But the greatest time in our life was when it was like we tried something called IUI 3 times. And I don't know how much you want to go into the infertility story, but it's kind of the option before IVF. And I had a male doctor, no offense to males, but it was just at the fertility clinic. I walked in, he's like, well, you're probably not going to get pregnant, but we'll try this other thing 3 times. And I was like, okay.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
No compassion.
No. And it didn't work those 3 times. And then so it was that time where we were like, okay, are we going to go? Are we going to do IVF? Are we going to adopt? Or are we not going to have kids? And that's a whole thing as well. And it was that decision, think about that, was so hard to make that we just didn't make it. We didn't talk about it. Another year or 2 went by. And I'd say we probably grew further apart during that time, only because nobody knew what to say. And like, I don't know what he wants in the core, down to his soul. He doesn't know what I want. Those are hard conversations.
It's interesting that you said that. I didn't know that piece of your story, but the last couple of weeks where I've just kind of been combing through, what I can find, conversations we've had, listening to you on the radio, listening to your podcast, I just got this feeling of the weight, how
really
hard. And I kept writing, she had to surrender in the weight. Mm. And I felt the heaviness, and I didn't know how long the weight was. But I did get the sense that this weight of not being able to figure out, can I get pregnant? Can I have a baby? Do I want to adopt a baby? Was just long and really hard.
Yeah. And it's, when we went the adoption route, we finished our home study in May, and Freya, our daughter, was born in November and came home with us in November. Oh, wow. So as far as the adoption process, and in that 6-month period, also had 2 adoptions fall through. So as far as that the logistical cycle of it wasn't that long. Now, the whole process of leading up to that, I would say, was, from 37 was about 3 years of the will we, won't we, what's going to happen. But then it's my whole life, Theresa. Like, if we go back, I think as women and men, we intuitively know things, whether we want to admit it or not. And I had my whole life had this if I look back, I couldn't have said that at the time. But sitting here now, I had some sort of feeling in me that I'm like, I'm not going to carry a child. I knew it.
Really?
Like, never had a pregnancy scare. Something about me was terrified the idea of actually having something inside me. I'm already claustrophobic and always think I'm not going to be able to breathe. So it was like, and kids are kind of annoying. So to have one inside you is kind of annoying, right? So anyway, I always
I didn't feel that way, but I'll go with you there.
like this is how I get myself through it. Kids are annoyed. I didn't know. No, there was something in me that was like, oh, that wasn't meant for me. And I think I love being different, not even like, I just love, I don't know. I never want to be the norm. I'm very different from my family, to a fault, for sure, sometimes. But I love standing out, and I don't actually, old me would have said that as an ego. It's something like an ego way, an egotistical way. Like, I want to be a star. It's not what it is. Now it's like, I feel like I want to be bold and say things that shift the room, that shift the conversation. I want to stand out. And if that means I have to walk this earth doing things a little harder. Now, by the way, I'm done with all the hardness. I'm like, we're good. I've got enough to write
It's
about.
all done. Okay.
We're good.
Okay.
You're the same.
I don't know. I'd love to think that I'm done with all the hardness, but I feel like it just does this. But I'd love to be. I'd love to be done.
Well, okay, I guess it's different. It's not, I'm not Pollyanna. I know life is still going to be hard. Things are going to be thrown at us. But I think the difference is that wake-up call moment, that cracked open moment.
Cracked open, man.
Means I don't have to suffer anymore. I'm able to, like, the thing can happen, and then I can put it in to a song or to a conversation or to a connection with somebody else.
We've learned how to
move it.
metabolize
Exactly.
the tough stuff. That
Exactly.
happens. I got to go back to something. 37 to 40 was the weight.
From hey, you have the eggs of a 54-year-old woman to Freya coming home
To
with us.
Freya.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
What happened in your marriage during that time? Like, did you grow closer? Did you grow apart? Did you communicate better, worse? Like, what was going
Yes.
on?
All the things. Okay. Further in some ways, closer in other. I mean, like I said, it was very like, we don't know how to talk about it, so let's just have a lot of fun.
Oh, well, that's good.
He also was traveling a lot. Like prior to COVID, my husband does sound for TV and film, and prior to COVID, he was doing 22 or 3 countries a year. So he was gone a lot, and that was not great. I will say that was not a great time for him to be gone. No, we were grateful for the work, but I think looking back, that's where a lot of my lonely, dark times came, like crying on the kitchen floor. Thank God for writing. Thank God for writing.
Did you write a lot in that time?
Yeah. Yeah, nothing that probably I may or may not ever show to anybody. But because, I think there's a line, as a writer, we have to really decipher, and this, like, we talked about this when you were on my show. What is for me? What is for public consumption?
Correct.
And I write everything thinking it's for public consumption.
Of course you
Everything.
do. It's so you.
It's my deepest, darkest secret. Hello, sir, on the side of the road. Can we talk? And then I have to, like,
And let me
dial it
sing
back.
out loud on the side of the road
Yes, I'll do
about
that.
it. Yeah.
And then I have to dial it back, even though I usually don't. I mean, I feel bad for my family and my husband and my daughter a little bit. I say that halfway jokingly and halfway serious. Like, I mean, my husband knew what he was getting when he signed up and married this train wreck. But I also think he does. We have to be careful. He didn't sign up for a lot of things I talk about. He flows great with it.